IslamNet is establishing the first of its kind mega mosque, think about that, and Dawah center in Norway. If you donate to support this cause on behalf of your parents, Allah will inshallah build a home for them in Jannah. Because the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said, whoever builds a mosque for Allah, Allah will build a house for him in Jannah. So you can inshallah help your parents earn the eternal home in paradise right now by clicking the link below.
Because that may be that you have made up something of a criteria for your own self, knowing that no evidence on earth, even if, let me tell you what the Quran says. If the unbelievers saw there were stairs going up the heaven, the dead spoke, you know what people will say? You will not say, now I accept the evidence. They will say, we are bewitched. We are deluded. This is an illusion or a delusion. We have been under the influence of magic. There is nothing in an insincere, arrogant individual when it comes to evidence, because no evidence will be convincing to them. But a person who is sincere, wanting to know the truth, they can see the evidence. When the people saw Prophet Muhammad for 40 years alive, and when he said, I'm a messenger of God, sufficient for them as an evidence he was a messenger. They didn't need to hear anything about the science that I was talking about earlier. Not needed, it was unnecessary. Why? Because people's level of evidence is something that they know what is convincing for them. You may have this ultra demand for evidence because you know in your heart you don't want to accept any evidence. If I were to ask you, I'm going to ask you directly. Name me 2 examples of evidence that will convince you without a shadow of doubt that God exists. Number 1.
Manifestation would be one.
Manifestation
would be one.
Manifestation.
Yeah.
Number 2.
Yeah. Able to talk and that.
Able to talk. Yeah. God able
Directly
to talk.
To everybody.
Directly. Hang on.
To everybody.
Hang on.
To everybody. Not.
If you saw in the sky someone like says, I am God. You saw it. We all saw it. If God were to manifest himself here and told you that, so now you've ticked the box, you'd accept it?
I'm not sure.
See, wait, stop there.
Now let me finish.
Okay, finish.
Because in order to assess the truth, you have to be rigorous. That's why being a scientist is a very difficult job. You have to. You have to search, and sometimes you have to go back onto your assumption. Yeah. And you should be
your assumption of manifestation.
You should be humble enough to accept that maybe what you believe in might not be true.
We are not discussing that. We are discussing what would convince you. Manifestation. Now, what picture do you have of God? That when He manifests, or when it manifests, when God manifests,
happens.
1 second, please. Now, it's your chance to demonstrate that you know what you're asking for. So, tell me, what are you expecting of God? He would manifest as what?
You're making a claim.
No, I'm not making a claim. No, I have reversed the table. I have said, what would convince you without a shadow of doubt? Why did I make that claim? Without a shadow of doubt. Unquestionably, you will be convinced. You said, I am not sure. That means you were not convinced what you asked for. So let me ask you again. I'm going to probe on this manifestation. What are you expecting to God to manifest that you are absolutely convinced that He is God?
A manifestation has to be assessed thoroughly. So I can't give you a straight answer straight away.
I'm listening. I'm going to listen. Tell me, what are the manifestations that you're expecting so I can tick your boxes?
Let's use a phenomenon. You know, in the past, when people saw a rainbow in the sky, they thought it was a god creating it, until the scientist understood refractions, the work of prism, and how.
I hope you don't mind. I'm just sitting there. I'm a bit tired.
That's okay.
Apologies. You're more than welcome to sit beside me.
Okay. They understood how light was composed. So then, from then on, they can ascertain that's what the rainbow is made of. Now, you're asking me if I see something extraordinary.
What do you mean by extraordinary?
Right, something we've never seen before.
Like what?
Yeah.
Because
let me tell you.
microphones with you. Oh, microphones. Switched up. Beg your pardon. Sorry.
Let me tell you something absolutely silly. Like a big hand. A big hand's come.
Big hands, manifesting big hands. No. I'm going to take anything that you say, and I'm going to test this. We're going to test this manifestation.
Yeah. So
when you say manifestation, tell me.
You know, it could take a long time to really assess whether what's happening is happening for real.
Take your time.
Yeah.
You saw a hand coming through.
Yeah.
So how are you going to be convinced it's God?
I may never be convinced because
then what you're asking for is not convincing.
Yeah.
So that means your demand that you ask is not convincing to begin with.
Yeah.
Try again.
Yeah. What I'm saying.
Shall we go to number two?
Yeah.
No. Please.
What I'm saying.
What was the name again? Gio.
What I'm saying.
When you are asking,
don't take things as true from the words of someone you've never met who died hundreds of years ago.
I am giving all that you want in terms of convincing you that there is a creator. So I want to hear from you, from your heart and your mind and your intellect and your scientific methodology or otherwise, right? What would convince you that that's God? When you came with the example of manifestation, you would never be convinced, according to what you've just said. So that means what you demand, if you have an hypothesis in science and says, look, you'll never be able to falsify it, that is not a good hypothesis. You will reject that because it's not testable. It's not provable. So what you've asked for,
proving something
no,
is difficult.
no, please. Yeah. What you're asking for is not that it's going to provide you evidence of certainty in your heart and your mind from your own example. So I have to cross this out. Yeah. It is not what will convince you. Number two, able to talk directly. If you hear someone saying, I am God, we all hear it, you will be convinced?
Okay, well, let's talk then.
No, would you be convinced? It's God.
Right, I ask questions and I wait for him to carry on.
And okay, you ask question,
so
he answers
he's given me a sentence. I'm waiting for paragraphs and probably a book.
No, he tells you everything that you want. He answers all of it. Answers everything.
Right.
Would you be convinced?
Well, that's purely hypothetical.
Your demand is hypothetical too, so it's not a problem.
We're in the world of fiction here. We can make up anything.
Options. We are in the world of how do we understand the creator exists. So the creator tells you and answers all your questions. You believe?
It's purely hypothetical.
No. You demand evidence to convince you without a question of doubt. If this happens, would you be convinced?
I'll ask for more and more and more and more until.
So at what point do you think you'll be convinced? You're not sure?
Yeah, because when you start...
Wait, slowly. Would you be sure?
No, listen. When you start an investigation,
Yeah.
you never know how far it's going to go and when it will finish and when you have all the elements. That's why, even in the court of law... even in the court of law, it's very difficult to prove that somebody is guilty or innocent.
But for you to be convinced
so
without a shadow of doubt.
So
at what point you would say, Alas, now I'm convinced. Tell me, at what point? How many questions? Science, you have to put a number.
And it's not only me asking the questions, the whole world. So
I just told you, you're asking something which is not going to happen. Why? But God didn't create you for the whole world to be forcibly believing in Him. So you're asking, saying, oh, God, there with that jar, and God you can't have that. So I'm saying, what you're demanding, ask yourself. It is unconvincing in the first place.
Right. And so
that demonstrates something about your own self. Perhaps you need to reflect more, have some self-introspection and saying, why am I being this hyper-skeptic about God? When I see the evidence, for example, have you ever felt, and you said, oh, God help me, ever in your life?
In the past, when I was a believer.
When you were a believer?
Yeah, when I was.
Okay, so what did make you disbelieve in Him? There must be some either emotional attachments, something that happened to you emotionally, or purely intellectually and rationally, or a combination of both.
Because the whole story, I was brought up Catholic. Yeah. So the whole story from the Bible just didn't make any sense. It wasn't true to life. Okay.
Yeah, like some examples.
The Virgin Mary, for instance, that's not true to life.
There are many species of the animals who gives birth to the same species from the same species. I'm sure you heard about this already.
Yeah.
So I don't see how.
Does it happen in humans?
No, it happens in nature. Yeah. So you have already a precedent in nature, and then you can't say, oh, just because I haven't seen and witnessed in humans, it means it's not true and it's just a fable. It doesn't follow like that. This is really not very, being reasonable. If there was nothing of this sort that we have an example to compare with, that's something to say, look, this is like magic. Right. But what we have seen is how life can come to be, like with these examples.
I will be closer to being convinced by a phenomenon like that, rather than the ranting of somebody who lived 600 years ago or more, right?
No, when you say ranting, you see, look, the language you're using, it's something that's offensive to you, perhaps.
Yes, derogatory.
Right. So, of course, very offensive word, but if you were talking about Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, I would like to know why this negative feelings.
Okay. Can we move on to the biography of the Prophet?
Yeah, we can. So, firstly, when you just wrap up this argument, when you talk about the Quran and Islam is a product of a mentally ill person, and he has these ulterior motives to be famous, to be a king, to be a powerful authority. Now, the examples I have given you, offered to you, demonstrates otherwise. Okay. And you said you're going to talk about this, but please do, so we can move. But at least we haven't found anything in his life which demonstrate that he was an imposter, a fake, a fraudster.
Have you read the Sahih al-Bukhari?
Many parts of it, yeah.
Have you read the part in book 7?
Oh, I don't know.
62.
Just tell me there are friends, and I can look into.
Narration of Aisha. When he was 6, he comes when he was 9. Aisha continued to live with the Prophet until he died 10 years later.
Sure.
So, okay. So,
marrying.
You believe that's
young.
The words are true because it's
historically.
Sahih means authentic.
No, you don't have to tell me. Historically, this is what is accurate for us.
This is what it says. This is what's written. Okay. Is it? Would you have a friend who has had sex with a 9-year-old little girl? So, and secondly, do you have any?
Let me write this down.
Do you have any compassion with little Aisha who had non-consensual sex with somebody in his 50s?
Sorry, I haven't.
Yeah.
Friend, having non-consensual sex with a 9-year-old.
9-year-old little girl.
And the second question? I have a friend who wants to have sex with a 9-year-old. Would I be happy with that?
Yeah. A friend being in his 50s.
Okay. And this friend is in his 50s.
Right.
Okay.
So this is Prophet Muhammad. There are other passages in the Sahih al-Bukhari.
So you're thinking that this demonstrates God doesn't exist?
No. It demonstrates that the claimant doesn't have a moral compass.
Oh, moral compass. Yeah. We're talking about moral compass.
Yeah.
What is the moral compass based on? Can I first establish that and then we can talk about it? So he hasn't got Prophet, has no moral compass. Prophet has no moral compass. So let's establish.
Is it right or wrong?
Oh, right. You got right, wrong.
Is it right or wrong to force a 9-year-old little girl to
force?
Have sex?
Wow, look at this claim.
A 9-year-old girl cannot decide if she wants consensual sex or not.
Let's talk about this. Yeah. So let's talk about, holistically first. What is our moral compass based on? That we are judging something is immoral. Because your question is about immorality. This is an immoral behavior. So let's understand what is the yardstick that we're judging against.
In this country, it's the law of the land.
So if this country, yardstick, and you're going to stick to it, right?
Yeah.
Yardstick is the law of the land.
Yeah.
So if the law of the land says you can marry an 8-year-old and have sexual relationship, you'd have no problem with that.
Anything below the
Wait. So, remember, the yardstick from your own definition, law of the land. See, if we have now France from tomorrow saying people can marry at the age of 8 and have sexual relationships, and you are a French person and you live in France, you're a French national. According to the criteria, the yardstick of morality, the moral compass, you would have no problem with that, would you?
You're making a fallacious argument.
One second. Law of the land determines what is moral. That's what you said.
Yeah, but that's not...
One moment, please.
Yeah.
Let's go step by step. Are you saying the law of the land is what determines what is moral and what is immoral? Good.
In this country?
If England says it's okay to marry a 7-year-old and have intimate relationship, passes a law.
Yeah.
So according to you, it is moral.
No, it becomes just as bad. It becomes just as bad.
I mean, it's very difficult for me to continue this conversation if you backtrack. Excuse me, Jill, if you backtrack from the very arguments you said. Can I finish this point? You said the arbitration here is done by the law of the land. Whatever the law of the land decides is moral behavior, is morally acceptable. Marrying someone or not sexual relationship, according to the criteria that you set, it's morally acceptable. Are you now going to backtrack that?
What you're doing, this is what's known as a straw man.
I'm not doing straw manning it. I'm challenging your yardstick.
Straw man argument.
How is it straw man?
Yeah.
So how is it
portraying a situation that does not exist. There has never been laws enacted of that nature.
There has been. Don't you know English history?
In the UK, name
Henry VIII. He married someone very young. But maybe wait.
21st century.
Oh, listen.
This is the 21st.
So now here are the problems that I'm finding, Gio, speaking to you. With all due respect, you find them offensive. You said there is no historical precedent, and now when we talk about precedents, confine yourself, knowing that in history it exists, like Henry VIII, all the other English laws, even before, and now realizing that it goes against your criteria of morality, acceptable behavior, you confine to, not in the 21st century, you will say, morality of today, Sunday, the 18th of July, 2021. And you keep on doing that, just like you will keep on doing when evidence after evidence will be provided, you will say, no, it's not convincing. So now, let me ask you once again for the final matter on the subject of morality, because I do not have even any reason to continue any further. If a country decides for itself, law of the land, having sexual relationship with a 9-year-old is morally acceptable. Is this morally acceptable?
I would go against it.
Then it wasn't the law of the land then. Because the law of the land is, it's okay. So you have now, you know very well, if you understood logic, you've moved your goalpost. It's called moving the goalpost one by one. I apologize because you know your argument doesn't work, and you feel like, how am I going to counter this, counter that? Be sincere and ask yourself, actually this man has some sense, it seems reasonable. If it was the law of the land which says this, but I'm not accepting it, even though I put this forward. So it is not the law of the land which is the moral compass. Can you think of anything else? Just to broaden your perspectives, maybe something else is what you're after, which makes things moral.
The human rights.
What are the human rights?
Charter.
When you say human rights charter, who made them? Fallible human beings. And you saying they know everything, what is good for us and bad for us? Hitler knew what is good and bad for his people, didn't he?
So you're perfectly okay?
I'm not okay with Hitler.
No. So you're perfectly...
Neither am I okay with people saying these are the human rights.
Yeah. You see, you're perfectly okay for somebody to have sex with
No.
You're not.
Listen.
You're not.
Don't take what I'm saying. I am saying I am not okay with your moral compass. That's what I'm discussing. I am not discussing Sahih Hadith in Bukhari about the marriage of Aisha radiallahu anha when she was 6 and so on. I'm not discussing that yet.
Yeah.
I am saying I don't even need to. I'm only discussing your presuppositions of moral compass. Let's talk about the moral compass. It wasn't the law of the land, because even if the law of the land said it's okay, you would not accept it. You will just reject it. Meaning it was never for you the law of the land. Human rights. If some people say human rights is this and that. You know what? 100 years ago, same human beings were to hang some people here. Do you know why they used to hang?
Yeah.
Wait.
Tyburn, I know.
Tyburn.
Yeah, I know.
We are in Speakerscorner.
Yeah.
We need to know the history. Why they used to hang them? What was the punishment of homosexuality in this country?
Probably death.
Death.
Like
the human beings decided death, which was human right and which was human wrong. So you are going to tell me human beings in 21st century can decide what is right and what is wrong? I don't buy it. It's not convincing at all. I'm sorry.
So
it's not convincing to you either. Shouldn't be, because you know by historical precedents, human beings were quite happy in offering their life to the Aztec gods of the Aztecs, saying these are virtuous things. That was a human right thing to do. But you know human rights and human wrongs can change and shift and reverse depending on time and space and culture and so on. So that cannot be an arbitrator, cannot be the yardstick. So you need to, my friend, you need to start reflecting on what indeed is the yardstick, what indeed should be the moral compass. Something that, let me help you with some examples, maybe you can reflect on it. It needs to be objective. Law of the land is subjective. A land can decide one law, another law can decide another law. Subjective. So first criteria of a moral compass needs to be objective. There will be nothing that you can bring from human experience of an objective moral compass unless it's from God. I can give you the argument of contingency and so on to demonstrate that to you. Morality can only be anchored in the one and only Creator who is perfectly independent and absolute being. It cannot be based on a contingent being.
That's your belief system.
Not a belief system.
That's your belief system.
No, it's not my belief. It's my rational understanding, and I can go through the rational process to share with you how rationally these things are. So I don't need to just tell you I believe in X and Y and Z. So far, for the last 2 hours or more, I have not only given the reason, not stated my belief, I have given reasons for my belief. Reasons which are intellectual, rational, philosophical. They are grounded in solid foundation. If you disagree with them, that's up to you. I mean, no one can take this away from you. Even at the end of the day, you disagree. But all we can say is, my friend, please.
So you're perfectly
reflect.
You're perfectly okay for somebody to have sex with a 9-year-old girl.
When did I say that?
You defended.
No, I haven't defended anything. I have only questioned your basis of morality.
Yeah.
I have not defended or went against anything. I have not given my understanding of whether this is acceptable or not acceptable. Neither.
So you sit on the fence?
No, I don't sit on the fence.
Yes, you are.
No, I don't. Why are you imposing your words on mine? I'm telling you that I have not given you any of them, whether it's this or that. Instead, what I have done to you is open up for you an avenue to reflect further, in which what is our morality based or anchored in, or should be anchored in. For example, you would be perfectly happy of man having sex with man, right?
I don't care.
It's not about care.
Yeah.
Would you say it's morally acceptable?
It's not doing me any harm.
I don't say about what's doing to you. Let me ask you again. Are you going to say it is morally acceptable for man to have sex with man?
I would say so. Yeah.
Right. So you see, even man having sex through the rectum of another man, that's what happens, right? Isn't it?
That's what.
Right. Hang on.
Yeah.
That's what happens. You're saying it is morally acceptable. May I ask you why?
Because it's happening between two consensual adult human beings.
Okay, got you there. Now we're going somewhere.
Right.
Sorry.
No,
Stop there. Right. We're going somewhere, Joe.
No.
So it's about adults plus consents. Yeah. So morality is anchored in, independent of nation states, as long as two adults, they consent to their behavior, it's morally acceptable.
Yeah.
What's another thing?
Not harming anyone else.
And no harm.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Not harming anyone else.
Excellent. No harm.
Yeah.
So now let's test this. If your son wants to have, if your son who is, when is someone adult? Let's define that first of all. 18?
Yeah.
18.
18.
Good.
Yeah.
Over 18.
Come of age 18.
18.
Yeah.
If your 20-year-old son 20-year-old son wants to have sexual relationship with your wife, meaning his mother, consensually and using condoms. According to your logic, they're adults, tick a box. Consents, tick a box. No harm, tick a box.
You stay with her or not?
No. When you say harm, what is the harm again? I need to know what the harm is about, so we can regulate and make certain understanding of this is what is harm, and then we'll use that principle to make things moral or immoral. That's what you're saying. Morality is anchored in two adults having consents and no harm. That's moral acceptable. So I give you an example, and we are only left with harm side, harm bit. You will be emotionally harmed because you feel some kind of betrayal, but she says, I love you still.
That is, if I have the choice to let it go, and that's what I.
What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it? What's wrong with it morally? What's morally wrong? They're consenting, two adults.
Yeah.
So the wrong bit is harm bit. Is that what you're saying? There's something wrong is about harm. What makes it wrong is the harm that is causing you, isn't it? What makes it wrong?
Is it making it wrong?
So it's not wrong. Is it wrong? I'm asking you now. Is it wrong? Is it morally wrong?
We're talking about a hypothetical someone would do something. Yeah.
Real example, not hypothetical.
Yeah.
I am now reversing the table back to you for you to reflect on these, criteria that you set up for accepting morality and questioning prophethood of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we need to have a moral compass. So why is it wrong?
That he has sex with my wife.
Yeah. Why is it wrong? What's wrong about it? Okay, we're going to finish this soon, inshallah.
In fact, there is nothing wrong.
Okay, fine. So there's nothing wrong with it.
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong. Let's leave it to that because we have to go. Now, may I continue this conversation later because we've been talking enough a long time.
Yeah.
But a few points that I would like you to engage further with you again, if we meet you, Joe, is on the character of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So we touched upon the morality.
There's more.
Yeah, we will talk about it, but not today because we have a long discussion and we want to make it short. So we're going to wrap this up by saying, in the near future, we'll sit again, maybe here, and we'll talk about. So we will establish the moral anchorage, in fact, what the moral or morality is anchored upon, or the yardstick, the moral compass. Once we agree on this, then we're going to apply that moral standard and see whether, based on this, his actions were moral or not. Because unless you and I know what is moral or immoral, what is acceptable or not, it is wrong to judge someone. Do you not agree? It is wrong to say this is wrong when we didn't even know what makes it right or what makes it wrong. Yeah? So let's leave it to that. I appreciate we had a long discussion, and we had a very interesting discussion on various topics. So we hope that we meet again and we talk.
There's more.
That's what I'm saying. We talk again. We talk again, and we brush this, and then and come to a conclusion whether indeed Islam is true, indeed if God exists or not. Yeah.
And whether Islam is moral or not.
Absolutely. That's the purpose. The reason of discussion. So thank you very much for having a discussion with me, and you take care and all the best. And if I have offended you in any way by using this example, then I apologize.
It takes a lot.
I apologize. Okay.
And stay well clear of But
make sure you see, that's a very cheap shot because look, I wanted to end it in a nice way without being condescending and so on. Let's leave it to that. Until we meet again, take care. Thank you.
I'm a Norwegian Muslim convert and I have a question about Islam. Can you help me answer it? If I made some food and gave it to my neighbors, would I be rewarded for that? I hear you saying yes. But what if I gave the gift of Islam to someone, like someone gave to me? Don't you think that would give me more reward than the food? Of course! Brothers and sisters, we have purchased a property to establish a masjid in the capital of Norway. By supporting our masjid, you will inshallah gain the reward for gifting Islam to our community. Imagine the children memorizing the Quran, the lines filling up for the prayers 5 times a day, the non-Muslims discovering the beauty of our deen. Subhanallah, all of that reward can be yours for a small donation. Allah said, believe in Allah and His Messenger and donate from what He has entrusted you with. So those of you who believe and donate will have a mighty reward. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, whoever builds a masjid for Allah, Allah will build for him a similar house in Jannah. Click the link to help and gain the mighty reward promised by Allah. Also, please help us reach more people by sharing the video. May Allah grant you a palace in the highest level of Jannah. Ameen.
Uh-huh.